book this year. And it never happened. And in '97, I said, you know what I'm going to do? Because I've got to get this done, or else one day I'm going to be 80 years old, and I will have that regret. And I didn't want to have the regret of the one thing I wanted to do my whole life. I didn't want to have to live with that. And so in 1997, I said, I'm going to sit down and write 1 word a day. Because I had read an article that said writing is not about writing, it's about the discipline of writing. And so I said, well, I will have a lot of discipline to sit down and just write 1 word. Some days I came home and I wrote, she said. Doubled my commitment, felt wonderful. But there were days when all I felt like writing was she said. And I'd come home exhausted and write a whole chapter. And I don't know if any of you read my first novel, Temptation, but I wrote that book in 3 months.
Really?
With that kind of commitment. With that commitment. Now, it took me 3 months to write it, and I met an editor, and it took us 6 months to edit it. But the thing was, is I had a finished book that I actually self-published in the beginning because I wasn't interested in going to a major publisher. I had my MBA. I met my husband in graduate school. He had his MBA. So we figured we were smarter than everybody, and we would just publish the book, and we would keep all the money. But the thing is I learned very quickly that thing, self-publishing, back in 1997, that 4-letter word self is the biggest 4-letter word in the English language, because that means you got to do everything yourself. Because you got to write it yourself, you got to publish it yourself, you got to promote it yourself, and guess who has to put in the money? Yourself. Way too much self for me. And so I ended up going into finding an agent. I found, back in 1997, I was able to find an agent right away. Because she read Temptation and she said, there's no other book like this on the market. A book filled with drama, but with God in the center. And she said, you're going to create this whole new thing. Well, I didn't really care about that. I just wanted to be published. And so she decided to go to mainstream publishers who hated Temptation because they said it had too much Jesus in it. They told me I would take out God and definitely take out Jesus. And then my agent said, well, no, you know what we need to do? We need to go to the Christian publishers. Well, that was worse because they didn't like the title, Temptation. You know, because I guess they didn't know. Christians had temptation. But at that point, I was really willing to do anything. I would have changed the title or whatever I had to do. But then they read the first 50 pages and they said, forget about it, because there was sex in there. And they just didn't know Christians had sex. I told them black Christians have sex all the time. That's how we keep this whole Christianity thing going. But interestingly enough, my books still are too edgy for the Christian bookstores, interestingly enough. You will not, you know, in the South they have the Christian chains, like Lifeway and things like that. They almost have my books. You know how you go into some stores and they have like Playboy with the cover. They almost have that with my books. You can order my books in those stores, but they think my stories are a little too edgy.